Welcome pilots, my name is Hybrid V and I'm doing something brand new for the channel in general here, and that is I'm going to react to some content here on YouTube. More specifically, I'm going to be reacting to this week's ISC talking about engineering because I'm super excited for it. So engineering is going to be one of the biggest changes for multi-crew coming up, and as well, many of you all know, following me on this channel, I am a big fan of multi-crew ships and naval ships more specifically. And this is going to be the future of that going forward. Of course, engineering is going to cover everything else as well, but it's going to be a bigger emphasis, especially on bigger ships. And I'm really curious to see how CIG is going to handle this and what we can expect going into 4.0. So without further ado, let's give this a shot. Let's go ahead and play.
Engineering, the next major step forward in multi-crew gameplay. Built on top of the in-development resource networking system, itself a harbinger of fire and a new reality for all life aboard spacecraft. It's been the subject of CitizenCon presentations, Q&As on Star Citizen Live, explorations on Inside Star Citizen, and fervent discussion by many of the content creators in our community. And on this final
He's talking about me! He's talking about me! Oh, and of course, many other people as well too, but specifically me, that's what I'm doing here. All right, let's go ahead and continue.
Episode of ISC before hiatus and we turn all of our attentions towards CitizenCon, we invited Torsten, Bastian, and Guillermo to update us once again on the current intention and implementation of engineering.
Yes.
The resource network enables us to actually give you the gameplay that you were always looking for, which is having meaningful multi-crew gameplay, which means that it really makes sense to have multiple people running around on your ship, and that wouldn't be possible without the resource network.
Okay, I like how he phrases that, making more sense to have multiple people aboard your ship. So right now, currently, in Star Citizen, and it's been like this for years, the only reason why you would ever have anybody aboard your ship is because you just want to give them a ride, or they're going to gun for your turret, and that's literally it. There's literally no other reason. Now with engineering, there's going to be a reason to have people aboard your ship that can do something other than just gunning or just being passengers aboard your ship. They can actually take part in the repairs and maintenance of your ship, as well as keeping you afloat. And again, I've talked about this so many times, guys. Star Citizen, if you're playing Star Citizen right now solo in a multi-crew ship, as time goes on, it's going to be harder and harder to play solo. And I'm assuming here they're going to explain in detail why that is. No, he's dead.
So we say that the resource network is a system that allows all the items and components that are part of the ship to talk to each other.
Every ground vehicle, every base, everything that runs in Star Citizen with resources.
Fundamentally, Resource Network is a replacement for the pipe system we had in the past that you may have heard about.
We chose a similar system, basically doing most of what we are doing right now with the resource network, but in a way that was not as scalable as what we intend to do.
Landing complete.
So
Oh, hang on here. We got to roll back a little bit. I got to see these MFDs. All right, so first off, they're talking about how everything in the game is going to be running off of the resource network system, including like outposts and stuff, right? So if you ever go to any of the outposts on the ground, or even like aid shelters, you'll notice they have like a battery meter and stuff like that. Now, of course, that's all placeholder. It doesn't actually do anything in the game yet. But this system coming in is actually going to feed into those systems. So maybe we'll have missions where maybe a aid shelter's internal battery system or whatever needs to be recharged, or a battery needs to be replaced. Something happens there that needs to be maintained, and a mission could generate dynamically, and you can go there and you can fix it and you can upgrade it, whatever. So this is really cool to hear. All right, let's back up a little bit because I want to see these MFDs.
The resource network, but in a way that was not as scalable as what we intend to.
Okay, so on the left side, we have our normal self status, right? We have shields here. We got the ship there. Really cool. Looks like he might be, yeah, he's in nav flight, so that's why he doesn't have his shields on. And we have the power management system here. Okay, so it looks like it's all entirely dedicated, I guess, to propulsion based on what I see here. And then you have the weapon systems here. Obviously, in nav flight, you're not have weapons, so it makes sense that they're not going to have that. And then you got emissions output. You can change the page there. Very cool. He's got a warning on his cooling systems there. Interesting. I also noticed this, so on the upfront status, the quick status here, there's a hit button now. Interesting. or not button, but indicator. And then we have our general settings configurations here. So this is all the stuff that we're used to in our settings now currently. And he has it set up there. And he has weapon configuration there. Of course, it's in nav mode, so you can't see anything. Very cool. I love this new radar too, by the way. It looks really good.
Landing complete.
So right now we just have one type of hydrogen fuel, but if we want to extend that in the future to having like multiple types that have some specific benefits on the thrusters, it's very easy now to add that resource. It's just a data setup.
Interesting. So this was talked about a long time ago, and I think it was in some of the design documentation about potentially having different types of fuel. And this is interesting, right? Because like, let's say you want to have racing fuel, right? Maybe it's like this really fast burning propellant that you could use that improves your overall efficiency, makes you a lot faster, maybe, you know, gives a little bit of edge in racing, but you'll burn that way faster. Maybe it even wears out the thruster nozzles quicker, right? Or it causes some level of degradation. So you really only want to use it in a competition setting. I think that's really cool. Maybe they have like longer burning fuels or something like that. So they have different stuff they can put in there. I probably doubt they're going to have that in the first iteration, but it looks pretty cool that they have that already thought of and it's ready to be plugged in because it's just a data set. So that's really cool. I love anything that involves additional customization. Very cool.
So resource network is the underlying technology for the system to work, and engineering is the gameplay we intend to have on top of this technology so that players may experience it.
Your ship flies because, you know, the thrusters get fuel, the power plants output power that the weapons and the sails and also the thrusters use. Engineering is all about both maximizing the use you get out of the resource network.
Okay, hang on. Let's back up here real quick. I want to see that interface. Okay, so this is the engineering console here, right? So we have weapons systems, propulsion systems, we have shield systems, and I don't know, is that power plant, I would assume? What is this, emissions output or something like that? Maybe the heat sink. I would assume this heart is probably life support. And then what is this, the radio? And then you have your cooling systems. Interesting. I wonder what these are. Very interesting. Yeah, and then you got your additional subsets here, weapon systems and stuff like that. Door control systems, alerts, how much fuel your ship has, overall power output. Oh, this would be quantum drive then. If this is power output, this is quantum drive. Life support systems, cooling systems. So you have more at a glance, and then you can, I guess this is probably power allocation, I imagine. Current config. What is this? What is this exclusive mode? Interesting. So this looks pretty cool at a glance. Not a whole lot going on here. It's just kind of a bunch of bars that you're kind of juggling around here. I wonder if there's a little bit more to it or if they're going to plan on adding more to it. Again, this is the first iteration that they're showing here. So yeah, let's see. Let's move on. Let's go ahead and continue and see what they talk about.
Resource network. And also getting the resource network itself going so that you're not
turret's
dead in
missing
the
its
water.
MFDs.
It's all things
Classic
that
Star
players will
Citizen.
be able to interact with. They will have to dedicate roles in their ships so that crew members are assigned to fixing those issues, and they can encounter more dynamic situations that will not happen in the previous system.
I love how he puts his hand up to
The
shield himself
goal
from the heat.
right now is to have all the components on the ship being physicalized. That means that the things that will take damage will be the components. That then means that those components are reasons to the failure of your ship.
We have the power plants, which generate the energy that your ship consumes. You have the shield generators, which take in some of that energy to convert it to shield power. You have a radar system that allows you to target the signatures of ships around you. You have coolers that generate a coolant resource.
Okay, so this is all stuff that we're used to now. They kind of, I guess you could say, kind of faked it a little bit over time. Hasn't really been like a really in-depth system. It's mostly just been running off of power. And as long as you had power to power the systems that you needed to use, it worked fine. So the resource network, I'm still assuming, is going to be running on power, but it's going to be a little bit more complicated than that. You talked about radar. We haven't heard a whole lot more about radar yet, so I'm curious if they're going to have new radar components now. They showed something there, right? And then we're supposed to get life support, so are we going to get a life support component now too? This is going to be really cool to see. But yeah, let's see what else they talk about.
It is all the weapons that you have, it's the quantum drive, but there are also new components that will be added to the mix, and that is the relay with its fuses. Then there's the life support generator. The biggest
Okay, so they're adding the relay and the life support systems. They didn't say anything about radar. I mean, we already kind of have a radar component now, so maybe they're just going to update them to be a little bit more physicalized. Can we like rip them out? And as you guys saw there, right, like this system here, right here, where people are pulling things, nobody does this in the game right now. Nobody bothers with this system right now. Hopefully with engineering, there's going to be a reason to actually start ripping things in and out of your ship. Right? Currently, right now, we have to use the VMA if we want to upgrade our ship, but that's going to change in the future. I don't know if in 4.0 that's going to change or if it's going to stay the same, but currently, right now, nobody really rips components out of their ship or anything like that. So I'm curious if they're going to actually add this in as a thing that is required for engineering in some way.
generator. The biggest thing we are aiming for is switching from your health pool of the bespoke ship to just moving that completely over to the physicalized component.
Okay, hang on. Okay, so right now we have a multi-crew ship that's in the worst position possible. He has a single light fighter attacking him, and apparently he doesn't have a gunner. I mean, of course, he can quantum at this point because that single light fighter does not have any ability to stop him from quantuming away. But in this case here, I'm looking up here at these systems. Okay, it says Argo MPUV ship armor. I'm assuming that's what this is. Why does it say MPUV? Because this is a raft. It's kind of weird. Probably just a internal dev shenanigans they're doing there. But these are the components. Like, these are the coolers. I know the cool core is the coolers. Diligence, if I recall, I think is the power plant, I think. And then the Aspis, I think, is the shields. I don't remember which one is which. At a glance here, I can see, okay, this is simple enough to understand. This is the actual health of those component systems. What is this? I don't know what this is. I'm kind of curious, but this is like this is a diagnostics page on your MFDs. And this looks like this is open to the pilot. You can see over to the right, there's also a power page over there, like a power assignment page over there. So if you have a co-pilot, they could also be doing stuff over there. And so this one intrigues me here, this ship armor. I don't know if this is like a bug, like some internal stuff right here, but that's kind of interesting to see. I don't know why it says MPUV. But anyway, let's see what else they say about this. Also, it says 3 systems are critical, 1 damaged, no errors. Interesting.
Just moving that completely over to the physicalized component. So damaging the component is damaging your ship. I think this is the part where the biggest change for the players happen.
Okay, that's interesting. So that you're going to be able to damage the components. How, we know that Maelstrom's not going to be coming in 4.0, I believe. Like, they haven't confirmed that. So we know that the damage penetration model is not coming in, or at least the detailed one is. Are they going to give us the same one that we had with the experimental system? Because I don't understand how you're ever going to damage someone's components. Right now, currently, it's just an HP system. And really, the only way you could damage someone's components is with explosives. Anything with an AoE damage. Any type of ballistic system or laser system can't do it right now. So I'm kind of curious if are they going to give us the experimental mode version of component damage where it has kind of like that, a really, really basic damage penetration system where it can punch through the ship and start damaging components. I'm kind of curious. Let's see what they say.
Because there the gameplay of repair comes in, and then you can revitalize your ship. So you can actually use your formerly dead in the water ship after exchanging or repairing the components.
Okay, that's cool. Folks, again, this is my first time doing like a react, so if I'm pausing a lot, by all means, let me know in the comments if you think it's annoying or whatever. This is the first time I'm ever doing this. I have a lot I want to say about this and talk about. But yeah, so let me know if you find it annoying or not. I would definitely love some feedback. But anyway, so I like that idea. You could be out doing your thing. You get beat up a little bit and then you get away maybe and your ship is completely torn up and you can actually nurse it back to health. I like that concept. I love the idea of going through a combat space, whether you intended to or not, and you're coming out of it like on fire. You know, your ship is completely gassed and your team is working to get it back in order and you're kind of limping back to base. I like that concept. That's a really cool idea. And I really want to see that fleshed out more. Let's see what else they say.
Well, we mentioned one of the new components, which is the life support generator. So let's talk about life support.
The life support does all the tasks necessary to maintain the life support.
Okay, so he opens the door, and now actually the air is evacuating. They've talked about this for a long time, and we don't have that now, right? If you're sitting in this space now currently in game, you are perfectly fine. You can even have your helmet off. It doesn't matter because there's no difference between the exterior and interior. So long as you're kind of in that physics grid area, you're perfectly fine. So now they're going to be adding this. I guess this is going to come in 4.0 as well too, which is really cool. Does that mean we're also going to be able to extinguish fires too?
Inside the ship.
So it's the temperature, it's the atmosphere composition, it's the pressure inside the room. Your main responsibility is making sure that there's always enough life support resource produced to maintain a healthy atmosphere in the ship. So making sure that all the CO2 that you breathe
so you can really
out
troll
is
your
actually
friends.
converted into O2 again.
Yeah, there's gonna be a lot of trolling with that for sure.
Or if you vented a room, that the room is filled again.
Yep.
If your room is getting too hot, it's cooled down again. So it's all about managing this resource inside the rooms. And as already mentioned in the previous episodes,
look at that inferno.
Life support management is also a good way to counter fire.
That looks nasty, yeah. And he's opening the cargo bay to vent the air. I would definitely do the same because that it looks like a firestorm that is brewing up there. Holy cow. This is so this is going to be interesting testing out. I imagine like this looks cool here, right? Every time they show stuff on IAC, it looks really cool. But of course, when it gets in the game, I'm sure this is going to be buggy as heck. I imagine you're probably just going to die to fire that you don't see because the server's lagging or something like that. Like, I don't know. We're supposed to get server meshing too, so hopefully that will fix a lot of those server performance issues, but you never know, folks. All right, every time we get a new patch, things end up breaking. So I imagine we're gonna get like invisible fires or fires teleporting all over the place. But this already looks scary as heck, and I quite enjoy this. This is really cool. Let's watch them extinguish it.
Another aspect the players have to counter or react to is misfires on components.
Misfires. Okay, so we've had misfires already now currently in game, and the thing is they're so incredibly rare. Like if you get a damaged thruster, sometimes you'll get thruster surges, you'll get a gimbal that's stuck on your thruster, or you'll get I think it powers off or something like that. There's a couple of different misfires they have currently in the game, but they're so incredibly rare and they hardly do anything. The thruster surge is probably the most funny one that you can get, or like one of the thrusters will just fire for no reason and then your ship is just starting to like list a little bit. It's really weird, but again, they're so incredibly rare. Now with this new setup, hopefully these are going to be more common as you take damage. And it looks like this Gladius has an engine that's damaged. Oh look, yeah, it says Gladius ship armor and it says 0 HP, and then yeah, that thruster main right is damaged. Again, I don't know what these icons mean right here. This is the cooler, the bracers are the cooler. Interesting. Let's see what they say.
Fires are something that is already in the game in some form. Thruster surges, seal generator failure, stuff like that. We're just expanding it a bit, and pretty much the idea is that, items that are damaged, that are too hot, or that, for example, are very old and degraded, will start misfiring. In some cases, that will be that it will take some extra damage. In other cases, it will be that they will stop working for a while. Other times, they will work indefinitely until an engineer comes by and manages to do some repairs. And some of the worst cases would be starting a fire, or in the case of, for example, power plants, engaging in a critical reactor failure.
Okay, so we have it here again too. We have one of the coolers is offline, 2 critical errors, 2 damage systems detected, which I'm assuming is this placeholder in the daybreak. Okay, so he said that wear is also a thing. So currently we do have wear in the game right now, but it's incredibly slow. But from a maintenance standpoint, like he said there, like you could potentially fix that, I guess. So are they going to adjust the wear levels? Because right now, currently, wear is like extremely, extremely slow. And I'm wondering if they're going to tune that to make it a lot faster for the purposes of at least testing this system and kind of getting it in people's hands a little bit quicker. Because I really would love to just like see how a ship behaves as it hasn't been repaired in a long time, how it actually handles under these new systems. That would be pretty cool. But currently, if you want to do that now in game, you have to play with that ship for hours and hours and hours on end before you start to actually see even like 1 to 2% wear. So I'm wondering if they're going to adjust that accordingly. Let's see.
I'm taking the ship with them.
There is a chance that if the power plant reaches 0 health, it will run into a critical failure, and that critical failure then will cause the entire ship to explode. It will give the player the time frame to react to that. So either by removing the component and throwing it out of the door and preventing your ship to explode, or even countering it by repairing the component and bringing it up to life again.
Okay, yeah, so I've talked about this before in the past, right? So we have soft death system right now, and that's kind of to emulate the idea of a ship being knocked out in combat. But this system is probably, of course, going to go away because of this new system in. So if your power plant gets hit and you're having like a critical failure and that system is going to explode, you're going to want to either get out of the seat yourself or have your engineer get there and try to repair that system, try to work on it, or as he said there, just throw the power plant or even the quantum drive, because of course the quantum drive is going to also be probably pretty explosively unstable if it's damaged. You're going to want to throw that out there and get away from it. And at that point, if you don't have a backup, you're probably stranded and cooked at that point. So yeah, this is going to add some interesting dynamics and a lot more interesting elements to the sandbox of the universe now already, and I'm very excited for this. Again, nobody generally carries components with their ship. There's no point. And I'm wondering if that's going to be a thing you're going to want to do now. Because like right now, if you cargo haul, if you bring like an Atlas or another vehicle, you're losing some of that cargo space in favor of some of the extra utility. Now, potentially, you could be bringing additional components with you for the potential of fixing any issues that you have at the cost of cargo space. My prediction, nobody's still going to do that. I don't think nobody's going to do any of that stuff. I think everybody's going to play it normally because currently right now, combat, you're mostly going to run into like players for the most part. There used to be a time in Star Citizen's history where you would get attacked by NPCs. They would just randomly spawn and attack you. There's some element of that now, like if you're at an outpost and it spawns a bounty at that outpost, then those bounty ships may be in the area and they'll attack you. But that's pretty much the extent of it. Really, you're only going to see that if you go looking for combat. So my prediction is people aren't really going to use this system. They're not going to bring extra components with them unless they're maybe doing combat. We'll see.
For the initial release, we have a limited amount of Misfires, but we are preparing the system, or we did prepare the system to scale well for the future, so we can introduce multiple Misfires, and that leads us to damage penetration.
Okay, this is
damage
interesting.
Penetration, it's a simplified version of what we'll be getting eventually with a more physicalized system, but essentially what it means is that now certain types of weapons can penetrate through the hull of a ship.
Ah, okay, so they are bringing the experimental modes version of the simplified penetration. And he said certain weapons, so of course that probably means more than likely it's going to be ballistic weapon systems are going to be better for this than laser weapon systems. Which is good, because right now everybody still just uses lasers. Now, I mean, there's a little bit of a balance where people are using ballistics and mixed and stuff like that, but now there's an actual definite reason you would want to bring actual ballistic weapon systems, because it's almost like bringing a debuff along, like a type of weapon system that can debuff the enemy. So if you knock out that armor, which I'm assuming this system is going to be using, right? Because we saw in that component system, there was armor there. And I'm wondering if that's how they're going to calculate, if there's going to be like an armor system on that, because I can't imagine that you're going to be doing penetration damage immediately on the offset, because that seems like that would be just a nightmare for multi-crew ships, just any ship in general. You can just, because everybody would just run ballistics. There has to be a buffer with that. Well, let's let them cook.
This is a function of the weapon itself, its penetration values, and also of the armor of the ship, which can be depleted over time.
So if
Yep, okay, there you go. So they confirmed. So armor is a thing that's going to be coming into that patch. And it's going to be it's just going to be this rudimentary system. So I was wondering why that was showing up in the MFDs, and that explains it right there. Okay, cool.
you use ballistics, you have a higher penetration, which allows you to cut through the armor more deeply and touch the components inside the ship directly. As opposed to this, you also have energy weapons, which will be more effective at melting down the armor.
The goal
Ah, interesting. Okay, so laser weapons and stuff like energy weapons are going to be better at melting the armor of the ship. ballistics are going to be better for penetrating and damaging those components. Okay, I was under the impression that maybe ballistics were going to be just better for destroying the armor and stuff like that, but that makes sense. That actually makes sense. There's a lot of games that kind of do that. For example, off the top of my head, like Nebulous Fleet Command. It's a great RTS, by the way. You guys should play it. It's a fantastic game. That one, you can actually have like plasma weapons, and they can actually melt armor, and then your weaker ballistic systems can actually do a lot more damage to heavily armored ships. And in this case, if you're carrying a mixed loadout, you're going to be able to deal with heavily armored ships very effectively, or even better, you can have a wingman that has lasers. They can deal with the armor, and then you can come in with the ballistics and start chewing them up from the inside. So that's really, really cool. I like that. That creates more interesting squadron flight dynamics right there.
Here is that you first need to bring down the armor health value to get to the fullest potential of your penetrating weapons. Then you can penetrate the ship and actually damage the components that sit inside the ship and not on the outside of the hull.
Obviously, there's degrees to this. Larger ballistic weapons may have enough penetration against smaller ships that it will be able to penetrate directly, but it's all of a game of choices, and it's going to depend on your ships and your weapons.
So with damage penetration and misfires happening, that brings us to repair.
Right. How are we going to
As
fix
your
these
fight
systems?
progresses and components take damage in your ship, it becomes the duty of some of your crew members to first investigate what are the issues caused by battle damage, and go there to physically replace the parts in your ship.
So you have your multi-tool, so you have the salvage
Beam
and
Citizen.
repair, and the repair part of it also affects now ship components, precisely like what you see in the Arena Commander mode. You will be able to repair items that were fully destroyed. You will not be able to repair the item to its fullest, so you cannot repair an item that got fully destroyed to 100% health again. So to repair your ship components to the fullest, you actually have to bring them to the shop again and do the station repair.
He says bring him to the shop. I'm assuming he just means bring it to the pad and then use the vehicle services to repair it, right? I don't think you have to actually take the component to the shop. I'm assuming that's way later. I highly doubt they have that plugged in now. So they're using the salvage system, and that's going to be how you're going to actually repair the actual subcomponents that are aboard the ship. Can't fully repair it. So you can do patchwork jobs. Interesting. But is there diminishing returns on that patchwork job? I want to know. So for example, if my cooler gets blasted, I fix it, right? It's not fully healed because I can't fully heal it, and it gets blasted again. Is that maximum health now reduced even further, or can I just bring it back to where it was again? I'm kind of curious as to how that works out.
Or if you did think ahead and brought spare items with you, you can simply exchange them to pristine new ones. But with the caveat, it only works, just as a reminder, for size 1 and size 2 components. Size 3 and above cannot be exchanged using the tractor beam detach and attach mode.
But nobody's
So
going to
now
do
that
this. Nobody's going to do this, though. No, I don't feel like anybody's ever going to do this unless like these type of issues derived from combat or wherever are more common to the point that it necessitates people doing this, and I don't think it's going to. So maybe if you're going directly into combat and you're getting beat up a lot, that would probably make more sense. But if you're like doing cargo hauling missions and whatnot, it's probably not going to matter.
We looked at what your responsibilities are in the physical space running around in your ship. Let's take a look at what you do on the virtual part, which is power management and analysis of your ship on the engineering screen.
Okay.
So the first thing that you will see is the 3D view of your ship that highlights the
Interesting. So they've changed the way the 3D mode looks. It's just all shaded green now. If the experimental mode version had it looks like they've cleaned up the UI a little bit. They made it a little bit cleaner and a little bit less difficult to read. So you can see the spider web of the relay networks still show up here, but they're just kind of in the background because it's not as important unless you're actually probably clicking that component system and then it shows you what it's connected to. The previous system that we had in the experimental mode was a little bit busy in its interface, so this is a lot cleaner. I'm not entirely sold on the kind of like monochrome aspect of it. I kind of like having more color on my interfaces, but this is first iteration, so we'll see how that pans out.
location of all the ship components and how they are actually connected, where the relay positions are, what's the status of the relays are. You will see the holograms of each component.
As you can see, they have different colors. What they are representing is the overall state of the item. So an item that is very damaged, or it's on fire, or it's not getting enough power will be in a critical state. Items that are less damaged, are receiving only partial resources, or are going through a misfire, may have moderate colors. And items that are otherwise fine will have the functional or blue colors.
The biggest change that happened to the engineering UI screen is basically the power management part of it. We moved away completely from slider control for every individual item. There is indicator now for fuel. This is not relevant for the initial release, but it will be relevant for the future. Next to it, you see the power plant. The power plant segments gives you
Okay, so he's allocating power, but does this do anything other than just balancing where the power goes, right? So in the past, we had power priority. All it did is it prioritized which systems received power first from your power plant. So in previous iterations, if you had a power plant that generated X amount of power, and let's say you got damaged one system or another or whatever, and you prioritize, I don't know, propulsion systems, it would ensure that those propulsion systems got power first before any other system. But it never really amounted to anything, and you hardly ever see it work. And in current iterations, there is no power priority anymore. It's literally just the power to engines, weapons, and shields, and they just basically give different buffs. There's no power prioritization or anything like that anymore. So I'm curious as to what this is. My guess is that for the most part, you're going to be balancing all these systems, and then maybe, well, okay, so here's the, okay, so I'm seeing this thing that says presets here. So can we save our own presets? Because I'd imagine if I wanted to go silent, I probably would like a silent preset and turn off all my cooling systems and minimize all power to my other systems. So let them cook for a second here.
an idea of how many power segments you can distribute to the ship items.
And on the right of each of the
kind of
power
reminds me of
bars,
FTL.
you can generally see the temperature bar. If it goes into overheating, the item will stop both consuming or producing, and it will be completely inoperable until it cools down again. So that means that assigning power to your coolers in advance is probably a good idea if you are going into a fight.
All the items on your ship generate heat, so this is where you can see the amount of heat that each item has accumulated, and you can see the amount of coolant that you are producing and whether or not you are also running a deficit. So what you want to do is put as much power as you can into the coolers until your items do not overheat, but do not assign more resources than necessary because you are running a limited pool of resources.
The same applies to the life support generators. So you have to make sure that you produce enough life support resource that the demand is fulfilled in your ship. If your demand isn't fulfilled, it will cause some failures.
There's also notification.
Okay, so from your initial state, when you spawn your ship, I imagine it's going to be balanced in a way that the ship can do everything without needing to be babysat. I'm wondering if this power system only comes into play if you need to apply more power to those shields, because I'm wondering if this system here, right? So let's find a good spot where it shows that interface. Okay, so here's the shields. We have this little box segment. I noticed it was here too, so I'm assuming this is the minimum required to get the system to run at normal operation, right? And then I think this is radar, and then this is life support systems. And if you go above that, does that affect the actual effectiveness of that shield system? Or is it only affecting how much power that system gets, which really just means nothing, really, right? Same with the coolers. So does this actually have a gameplay benefit other than just balancing bars? If I put power to these weapon systems here, do I get a bit bigger capacitor? Is there any type of change to my weapon damage output? I'm kind of curious about that. Or, like I said, it's just affecting whether the system is powered or not. Let's see what they say. Kind of curious if they're going to explore that a little bit.
There's also a notifications panel. Here the main warnings about the state of the ship will be displayed. If an item is damaged, doesn't get enough power, or is misfiring, it will create a warning. You will be able to see it as a notification. Take a look at it, go to the item, or just remove it.
So you have an option that allows you to basically log the controls so that you or the pilot, which has access to the MFD, which shares some of the power management functionality, do not conflict with your controls. So by locking this, you are able to override the MFD settings to only have it being authoritative from the engineering station.
Okay, so if I want to troll my friends and start messing with the systems, I can lock out the pilot and start messing with the power allocation. On the flip side, can the pilot lock out the engineer? I imagine not, right? The engineer should theoretically have the ability to have full authoritative control on the engineering station, but, you know, we'll have to see when we get in our hands. Okay. Presets. This is what I'm interested in. So we have a combat preset, and he has a new preset there. So you can create presets on the fly. This is actually really good because, for example, if I want a stealth preset or a combat preset in this case, or gotta go fast preset for escaping, like these are, because like in the middle of a fight, allocating bars is great in the moment, but if I'm trying to do something very specific or I'm trying to prepare, this preset system seems like it'd be super, super handy.
You are able to take the power assignment you have at a given time and save it locally on your computer, meaning that when
locally,
you fly
interesting.
with the ship, or even if it's not your ship but somebody else's ship, you can quickly apply your presets. This is very useful in the middle of combat. And you can quickly switch to a combat preset where you will give, for example, more power to shields, weapons, and thrusters. Or at the same time, you may want to have some nap mode preset where you reduce the power to everything and just put it on the bare minimum so there's no degradation or misfires related to power use.
So you can set a preset on your ship and then jump on somebody else's ship and load it up?
Indeed. Your presets are stored locally, so as long as you have access to the screen and you're using the same ship, you can apply a preset. Obviously, if the components have changed or the ship has a different loadout, the preset might not apply perfectly and you might need to adjust it, but it gives you a quick baseline on how your power is assigned.
Okay, that's pretty cool. I like that. I like hearing
We hope
that.
that with these changes, players will have more varied opportunities to experience the game. We'll encounter more situations where it feels relevant and enjoyable to have multi-crew gameplay in the ships, so that you do not think it's just about filling in the battle positions like the turrets and the pilot seats, but it's more involved gameplay to actually manage your ships and try to fix the ongoing situations that occur within them. And we also hope that this makes larger vehicles which have more interior space both more troublesome but also more enjoyable to play with.
We are still working.
Yes, more troublesome. So, for example, flying solo, you could potentially have a lot of issues. Now, if you're flying solo and you're not encountering any problems, like you're not in any combat or whatever, you're probably going to be fine, right? But if you decide to take your Corsair out to do some bounties and you get chewed up a little bit, generally you're probably not going to have any issues, generally because the Corsair has really strong shields, and I'm sure it has pretty decent armor as well too. But if you're doing that, and the AI decides to, or not decides to, but just ends up hitting you and strips that armor and you start taking some damage, you're going to maybe have to wave off if you start getting a fire developing in the back, right? You're going to have to actually wave off and do something about that, which can be a nightmare for a solo player, but if you're playing with a friend, your friend can just hop off a turret real quick, run back there, put out the fire, and assess the damage and address it accordingly. And that's going to be really cool, because one of the things that I get a lot of comments on both the channel and on my Discord is a lot of people are saying that they're not actually interested in the flight aspect of Star Citizen or even dogfighting or even being a cargo pilot. They would love to be like a turret gunner or just like an engineer. They would love to just sit on board a ship and just keep the ship going and just let everybody else do their job and just be the guy that does the engineer. They want to be a Scotty, right? They don't care about flying the ships or anything like that. They just want to go up there and be like, I'm going to fix this system. I want to balance the power. And yeah, this is going to be really cool for folks that want to do that. There's actually going to be a career you can do that doesn't involve you having to fly a ship or a vehicle or anything. You are just aboard, making sure the ship is in tip-top shape and also making sure your crew is able to get home alive safely. So this is very cool.
Working hard to get it done for all of you. There are ships that already have the functionality. There are still ships that we are working on. But overall, we are super excited to finally get it into the PU.
Okay, so not every ship is going to have this system in 4.0.
Okay,
Okay,
already
gotcha.
fun to observe what you can do with the entire system, and now with having the feedback from that, adjusting the gameplay a little from the feedback that we received from you. I am really looking forward to see what you all will be doing with it.
Same.
So what did we learn this week? Well, we learned that there's a sweet new interface for dedicated engineering terminals aboard spacecraft. That the first implementation of armor and damage penetration means that the ways that you kill and keep your spaceships alive will fundamentally change. And that when this arrives in the PU, life aboard spaceships will never be the same again. Now, that's it for this season of Inside Star Citizen, while everybody here turns their focus towards the upcoming CitizenCon, where we'll be showcasing the future of Star Citizen beyond Alpha 4.0. Yes, it's a show you're not going to want to miss. So from the small team that makes every ISC, thank you so much for letting us stretch our proverbial wings this year. Thank you for continuing to let us share the people and process of game development with you, and we'll see you all back here after the big show. I can't believe we got to
It just cuts him off. It just immediately just cut him off. Oh no, the Doctor Who references again. What is going on? I swear the cinematics team that does this stuff is just like, they are sometimes just unhinged when it comes to this stuff, and I love it. I'm here for it. I have no idea what's going on, and I love it. Speaking of Big Benny's, CIG, where's my functional Big Benny's machine? Come on, guys. Anyway, folks, so that is the engineering coverage on ISC. And boy, that is... Okay, so there's a lot to sink our teeth into. So the main thing to think about here, right? Again, like I mentioned, solo play is going to be affected by this, bar none, like 100%. It's going to be a thing that you're going to have to think about. So if you're flying any type of big ship on your own, you're taking a risk, right? If somebody attacks you, or even over time, if you're running that ship and it starts to wear down, again, we don't know how the wear is going to, if it's going to be faster or slower within this new patch. And if you run into problems because of that, that could really hurt you being a solo player. This is why if you want to do, for example, a hull C or whatever, you're going to want to have somebody with you, at least one other person with you to help you with this type of stuff. It's really going to be very, 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 very important to have some additional help with that. So that's going to be interesting. Now, they did say in a previous ISC that solo ships like single-seater fighters are going to have a truncated version of the engineering system. So I imagine all you're really going to do is have that panel that we saw there earlier that just shows you what's damaged, what's critical, what has errors, your misfires, right? But you're not really going to be able to do anything at that point. Really, if you need to do something to fix that, you're probably going to have to land, get out of the ship, pull out the components, start fixing it, and try to get it back up to shape. That's probably the extent of what you can do. Everything's going to have to be done on your own like that, right? Still no talk about more in-depth like repair systems and stuff like that. I imagine we'll probably learn about this. Maybe we'll learn about this at CitizenCon. I don't know. Maybe we'll learn more about this next year. It's clear that this system is needed first before we go on to that new system of repair that is supposed to happen. So fixing wings and broken parts and stuff like that. So I would love to learn more about that, but this is going to be the first thing that's going to come in this system is going to be needed before that comes in. So yeah, this is quite interesting. I think, was there anything else in here that I really wanted to know more specifically about? Let's back up here. Let's also just back up here.
Bring it up to life again. Was produced to pristine new ones. But
Yeah, really, I just want to know what power allocation is going to do, right? Balancing power is one thing. Okay, that makes perfect sense. But does adding more power to a system actually matter in any way? I would really love to know more about that. That definitely is a big question in my book right now. Again, I'm still not 100% sold on this like monochromatic system there. Again, first iteration, we'll see how it pans out. I imagine also this is just kind of like this says Aegis, and I'm wondering if each one is going to have its own. Maybe initially everybody's just going to have this kind of monochromatic look, but in the future we'll have different types of UI panels that match the manufacturer, like how the HUD is supposed to be. I know we're going to get, what was it, like Aegis, I think maybe RSI, and a couple others like Origin maybe or something like that. We're going to get their HUD elements, their custom HUD elements in, but everybody else is going to have like a generic one. So yeah, I imagine maybe we'll see stuff like that. So yeah, this guy is getting blasted here, and we're going to get some damage penetration here, and then that's going to start affecting some of the components on the ship. Again, if you're under attack by NPCs or players, and you're solo in like a freelancer here, you can be in deep trouble. Not even beyond just getting blown up, right? That could be a thing that could happen, but even if you get away, you could have a lot of issues with your components on your ship that require triaging before you can actually continue to do whatever task you're trying to do. Or it could cause a fire, and a fire on board could be massively detrimental because it's going to start just eating everything and just destroying everything, let alone being a danger to you, right? Eventually, it would damage life support systems and it would just kill itself. But how many components did it take out along the way to the point where you are just completely stricken? And if you have no way of actually getting that systems back up, you're probably going to need an SOS beacon. Hey, that also means that maybe an SRV can actually tow you back to base, or station or whatever. So this is cool. I like this idea. But we still need CIG to really force more of this onto the player in some aspects, right? I'm okay with players not seeing a whole lot of combat if they're doing cargo trading. There's no point, right? There's no need to. There's nothing that necessitates it. So this is why I think the wear system is going to be very important going forward. Now, I don't want it to wear out so fast to the point where it's so irritating and annoying, but at least compared to how it is now, it definitely, in my opinion, should be a little bit faster, if not for at least testing purposes. We should really force problems on players flying solo for now a little bit more than normal, and then once we've kind of seen how those systems work out, how players react to those systems, then once it goes live, maybe they can dial it back. So that's just me personally. Yeah, I'd like to see that, but we'll see. But yeah, folks, so far looking good. I am very, very excited for this system here because, like I said, again, I'm very much into the naval combat. I'm very much into multi-cruise ship combat, just multi-cruise ships in general, and the idea of having an engineer running around trying to fix things, or multiple engineers running around and fixing things, and trying to keep the ship in ship shape and fixing things. I think that's really cool. It's going to add a lot of interesting dynamism to the combat. And this is probably also why CIG is kind of like upgrading a lot of the ships too in terms of their survivability, because it's definitely like with this new system here, bigger ships would be at a disadvantage in combat overall. Because of the way turrets interact in combat currently. So adding a lot more durability to these ships, as well as adding more shielding, means that a lighter ship is just going to take forever to actually do anything to a big ship. So if you have like an M2 or something like that, it's going to take a light ship quite a while. So you're going to want to bring a heavy fighter or another multi-crew ship that can actually start chewing through those shields and then chewing through the armor and then eventually damaging those subcomponents. Otherwise, you're going to be sitting there forever as a light fighter trying to take it out. So yeah, this is going to be cool. It's going to be interesting to see how this changes the dynamics of combat and the dynamics of just civilian craft in general. All right, folks, that's it for me today, reacting to the ISC, focusing on engineering. If indeed you did like this video, please leave a like on the video itself, because it really does help out the channel. And of course, if you want to watch more videos like this and much more down the line, be sure to subscribe as well. And of course, in the comments down below, let me know if you like my format of doing reacts like this. And if you do, let me know other videos you'd like me to react to as well. And there's a Discord link down below for you to check out. So if you want to actually suggest some stuff, you can do it on that link. You can head out to my Discord and you can suggest stuff to me as well. And of course, if you want to go above and beyond a little bit and help support the channel, consider becoming a channel member as well, like these fine folks right here, whose contributions help out immensely for me getting videos like this out to you all. But until next time, fly safe, and I'll see you all in the black.